Things change only when people change. I know, that doesn't seem very earth-shattering, but I got news for you. We're the stewards of this planet. And unless we change, nothing changes. If we want to do something about concussions, we want to do something about injuries, we want to do something about headshots, we'll do something. If it means more to us, in other words, human beings mean more to us than the money we can make in sport. You say, come on. Don't go there. I'm telling you. The reason why we don't change the rules or change the sport in hockey is because it's driven by money. You have insane guys like Don Cherry on CBC talking about fighting as an intelligent thing to do on hockey. I'm telling you, you do what we do on the ice anywhere else in life, and you go to jail. That's how dumb this is. And I'm as patriotic as Don Cherry is, and I'm as patriotic as anybody else. And I love this country. You've heard me say on the show, I love this country. But when we advocate for something that injures people on purpose, and we don't change it, and we can't change it because we got to think about it, I'm telling you, you're not thinking clearly. Do something about it. Today we're talking about concussions. We're with Dr. Michelle Kincade. By the way, that's not her opinion. I don't even know what her opinion is on that. So don't put her with the same label I am labeling myself.
Too late.
Too late, but
she's on the show.
She's on the show.
I'm just joking.
Dr. Kincade, I wanted to ask you, what can someone do who has a concussion to help them come back? Because it is a long process. And as I said in the first hour, when I had my concussion, I eventually had to walk around, and this was in the 60s, so they didn't have the expertise, I think, that they have today. I had to walk around with a helmet on my head. I became...
No, I'm just teasing.
I became the butt of every joke and every kid in such a way that eventually my kids pulled me out of school, or my parents pulled me out of school because it was so depressing. I got so discouraged because I was labeled in so many ways. What can coaches do? What can parents do? What do you tell them to do when they're faced with this?
Rest. Okay. Rest. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not something, we can't go to physical therapy for our brain injury. Really what we have to do is be able to just take some time off, decrease the amount of stimulation. So for people, if they're at work or at school, that may mean they need to take off a little bit of time. They may need to go back half days at first. Mm-hmm. Basically, we have to let symptoms guide how much we return back to any activity. So symptoms being headaches, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, blurry vision, confusion, memory loss. Mm-hmm. As long as you're having symptoms like that, then that's your key sign that you need to slow down and take it easy. Mm-hmm. And then you need to be really pretty much asymptomatic, so no more symptoms at rest before you start grading back into some activity level.
Mm-hmm. It is so difficult, isn't it? Because the person looks normal, they look healthy. And for some reason, a lot of kids don't want to get on with their lives till the other teammate is healthy, and they don't realize that they need to get on. They need to move past it, and that doesn't mean you don't care about the other person. It just means that you have to move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is the invisible injury which makes it difficult. But I mean, like I said earlier, it is important to recognize that most people with concussions, with the first concussion, without a history of a lot of concussions, will recover. Mm-hmm. And it's just a matter of the period of time in which it takes to recover. And it's frustrating when you're in it to be, have headaches every day and feel dizzy and nauseous. And, people may talk to me after 3 months and say, I can't believe I'm still feeling that way. From my perspective, 3 months is not that long. Mm-hmm. So we have to kind of change what our expectations are for how long it takes to recover and to give ourselves a break and take some time to let ourselves heal.
I've heard that saying, slow down and take it easy, many times from my mother. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, I respect that now, especially older I am, because when you do say about rest, you mentioned you need to rest. Now, rest, people would think, read a book in bed, watch TV. That to me doesn't rest the brain.
That's an excellent point, because that's what people are forgetting. What does the brain do? It processes all this types of information. So, I'm not saying that you're going to have to sit in a dark, warm room for 3 months and do nothing, but you do really have to limit the mental and physical exertion that you do during that time. So, yeah, maybe TV, but a little bit of TV, and then turn it off and have some breaks. A little bit of reading, but then turn it off and have some breaks. Don't be overstimulated. Not too many lights, not too many sounds, not going out to parties. No drinking alcohol during recovery, no drugs during recovery. Those are all things that can dramatically impact how your brain recovers. So all of those things, take some quiet time and let your brain heal.
Why do those things, and I'm just thinking so that people have a perspective, why does alcohol, for example, I mean kids aren't supposed to be engaged in that process anyway, but I'm just curious to know why the light, the environment, why does that affect it and reduce or impair the repair process? I understand what it does, but why does it reduce it or impair it?
Well, alcohol affects your brain.
Yeah.
Anybody who's ever had one too many knows that you don't think quite the same when you've had a few drinks. I don't drink, so. Okay. So, well, if any of your listeners do drink, they may have had that experience of, being a little bit confused or having some difficulties remembering things or not thinking quite so clearly. So obviously it impacts how your brain is working. And when your brain is already compromised by an injury, that means there's a lot of recovery going on. There's a lot of swelling. The brain is trying to recover and trying to repair the damage that's been done. And you throw some alcohol into that, and that impairs those processes that are trying to heal the brain.
Now, I'm a big advocate of proper fitting helmets. And yes, we've been blessed with this helmet that's our natural skull. But of course, then we get into the helmet situation. And I see a lot of hockey players, especially going around, they have the helmet on, but the strap isn't done up. I see a lot of also parents wanting their kids to grow into the helmet because helmets are pricey. However, how important is that head to the parent to keep that safe? And one of the big things that I've been told is the proper fitting. It has to conform the entire contact on the head so that you don't have areas that have less contact with the surface of the helmet. Another thing would be maybe just, if anything, explaining that when there is an impact on the head, I mean just purely considering it the skull, but if we had the helmet and you had the impact, if it wasn't tight enough, the impact would still occur to the skull, and everything, of course, inside, you're saying, gets jostled around, right? So if anything, I just think, and please tell me if I'm wrong, it is crucial to have a proper fitting helmet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see it all the time with, like you said, hockey players with the chin straps hanging down, or I see the kids even riding their bikes that have helmets on, but then they're halfway to the back of their heads, the whole front part of their head exposed. And it makes me cringe because I think there's a lot of important stuff in that front part of your head. So a proper fitting helmet is definitely important. I would say about helmets, though, is to be careful not to let that give you a false sense of security.
Yes. Because
you did talk about our internal helmet. So the helmet that you would wear is important for protecting your skull so that you don't have a skull fracture. But inside your brain, you never have to have you don't have to hit your head on a hard surface to have a brain injury. Because your brain is that soft jello material floating in some fluid inside the skull, which is hard, all you have to do is have some impact, some acceleration and some deceleration of your brain inside your skull, and it smacks against the inside of your skull. So, there's lots of times that people say to me, I didn't hit my head, but it's irrelevant. If you're going, 60 kilometers an hour and all of a sudden your head jostles back and forth in your brain, there's an injury there. So helmets are important. Absolutely. I'm a proponent